Well, going into our news review segment, a number of stories making the rounds in the news cycle this morning. Topical amongst these is the passage of a bill that sees a 1 cedi hike in fuel, if I can put it that way, for the energy sector. I'll go to ChannelOneNews.com and read a paragraph or two from that particular story. Then I introduce my guest and we'll have a conversation on it. Story says, Parliament approves 1 cedi fuel levy hike despite minority walkout. Parliament approves 1 cedi fuel levy hike despite minority walkout. Parliament has passed the Energy Sector Levy Amendment Bill 2025, approving a 1 cedi increase on the levy imposed on petroleum products. This is expected to raise an estimated 5.7 billion Ghana cedis in additional revenue. According to Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen, the funds will be used to ease the country's mounting energy sector debt and secure fuel for thermal power generation. Dr. Forsen told Parliament on Tuesday, June 3, that Ghana currently owes $3.1 billion in energy-related debt, with a total of $3.7 billion needed to clear the arrears. He also said an additional $1.2 billion is required to purchase fuel for power production in 2025. He assured lawmakers that the tax increase would not affect the ex-pump price of fuel, citing recent improvements in the performance of the local currency. However, the bill's passage was met with resistance from the minority caucus. Members walked out during the vote, arguing that the majority side lacked the quorum necessary to legally approve the measure. The minority also criticized the levy as ill-timed and burdensome for Ghanaians. All right, so that's the story from Parliament and, of course, from government. Following the approval of that 1 cedi fuel levy, which, of course, is expected to address energy sector debts and ensure some efficiency in power generation and power distribution. Let me say good morning to my guest in the studio. Engineer Michael Kosidede is here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you. And then Dennis Miracles is also here, a spokesperson for the 2024 Dr. Mahama Baumia campaign. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Nana. How are you
Good
doing?
to have you. I'm very well. I trust you're well too.
Ah, yes.
Looking sharp as always.
You know, this one, we should be in bed.
I know, right?
Accra.
3 years today. So
Oh, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you guys, you'll be hard, though. Like, the way they just transformed and evolved into ChannelOne, you know. Nice one.
Thank you.
I think we'll see a very, very,
you guys have been part of our journey.
Yeah.
So we want to say thank you to you as well.
No,
Where's
but big
the
ups.
party? Where's the cake?
I'm sure the producers will work something out.
Should be serving cake this
The
morning.
producers will work something out.
But big ups to Samens and the team,
Yeah.
Bernard,
Yeah.
and you know all of you for
Sure.
this big you know achievement. And it's the professionalism, you know, the penchant for detail. I think it's something that you should keep up with.
Thank you.
Especially when it comes to basically putting out the bare facts. You know, you put out the facts and let the people do their own, you know, assessments. So, more years of glory to you.
Amen.
Many more of amazing things for ChannelOne TV.
Thank you so much. All right, Engineer, I'll start with you. Story I just read. Parliament has approved 1 cedi fuel levy hike despite a minority walkout. This follows the passage of an Energy Sector Levy Amendment Bill 2025. We do owe. There are debts in the energy sector. We need more money, more dollars to even buy fuel for power generation. The government, through its finance minister, has amended the Energy Sector Levy Bill, and this has given birth to a 1 cedi hike in, if you like, fuel levies. The minority thinks it's ill-timed. When you look at this and you make your own assessment, what do you think?
Okay. So I think that One, the process itself is not helpful. I mean, this bill was brought in under a state of agency, a certificate of agency, and within 24 hours, it's passed. My concern is that recently there was a report put out by the Ghana Statistical Service, which said that over 70% of Ghanaians did not feel they were involved in decision making and felt isolated.
Right.
And this is a typical demonstration of what the Ghana Statistical Service has put out. That you come out, you want to pass a law that is going to impact on Ghanaians. But you think that Ghanaians should not even think about it because you have majority in parliament. So you go in there and within 24 hours, you've passed it. Without enough debate and education as to what that one CD is going to solve.
What do you think should have happened before the passage?
Look, there needs to be thorough discussion. And I think that that discussion is important because one, we have had this fund around for 20 years. It began in 2003 with the toll levy. That is how this whole energy recovery, debt recovery thing began. In 2003, that is when this thing was put in by the Act 642. That is when it came into being. So we've been collecting money with the excuse that we want to recover debt at all. And then in 2015, we revised it to the ESLA, which now became the Energy Sector Levy Fund. And we have been doing this for over 20 years, consistently collecting money from Ghanaians, telling them that we want to do away with the debt and then ensure that the energy sector recovers. Till now, nothing has happened. And I think that we as Ghanaians need to be concerned. So in the light of this, there should have been thorough discussion on this whole energy sector debt issue. But we haven't had that. Simply because the government thinks we have majority in parliament, they walk in, throw in agency, and then within 24 hours it's passed. And everybody walks away. And this morning, it's been implemented. I think that is unfortunate.
But we voted for 276 MPs.
No. But the
to
point
take decisions on our behalf.
Yes, but that decision, it doesn't mean that they should go and take the decision and then, without even letting us know what it is all about. Who knows the details of that amendment as we sit here today? We are the ones going to pay for it. You understand? We are the ones going to pay for it. So you don't say that because we have elected you, you go there with impunity and pass laws without looking at in our faces. And look, even the level of increment is 400%. The levy previously was 20 pesos. You've increased it now to 1 CD. That is 400% increment. I mean, these are questions that Ghanaians should look at. So I feel saddened by the way our government has behaved. And I think that beyond that, we need to seriously look at this whole idea of debt recovery because it's been around for 20 years. And I think that it's simply our governments, each of them looking at it and say, oh, a certain cash cow has been created. When we come, we'll go into it and then get money without looking at really solving the problem that this whole fund was set out to solve. So I am disappointed, one, by the process which it shows impunity, and two, it also tells us that our governments do not care about solving problems. They are simply there to collect money, spend it anyhow they want, and then come back to us again with stories about it, because the history of this fund clearly shows that they are not interested in solving the problem. Since 2003, we began with Toll Levy, Act 642, then we revised it several times in 2006, 2010, then we came to the ESLA in 2015. Who then scraps? I mean, clearly the government is not interested in solving. Look, TOR, up to date, TOR, it doesn't work. What does TOR do? TOR simply stores fuel and loads tankers.
It's become a storage facility.
Exactly. So why do we need even another chief executive for TOR when we have BOST? These are questions that anybody should be interested in. If we really want to solve a problem, I feel by now that the government should have looked at it and said, look, if TOR is only doing the same thing that BOST is doing, then why do we need 2 chief executives? But again, every government finds it as an opportunity. Oh, our men can then be appointed into positions. So we have a new TOR chief executive. We are appointing all manner of people, and they are adding no value to the basis for setting up TOR. It's not being achieved. And yet, politicians find it convenient to appoint chief executives to TOR when TOR is doing nothing different from BOST. So why don't we put them together? So that we have at least 1 chief executive, and then we can cut down on and trim down so that they are efficient.
Right.
Beyond this, what should we be doing as a country? If we really want to solve a problem, we should be looking at the inefficiencies within the energy sector. have we seriously looked at the inefficiency within the energy sector? ECG is losing over 30% of the energy that it buys. It can't account for it. And yet we are sitting and watching. We are appointing new board members. We are happy just appointing new board members, new chief executives. We are not dealing with the inefficiencies. Look, ECG over the years has bought equipment that have not performed. Nobody has queried that. Nobody has been held accountable. Transformers have been bought into this country. They leak. Did not serve the purpose. No one is held accountable. So the inefficiencies within the sector clearly are not being dealt with.
Yeah.
But our governments are happy appointing people, paying them huge salaries, giving them all types of notches, and then look in our faces and pass laws, every day increasing the fees. I think this is clearly not fair to us. And we need, as Ghanaians, to begin to question our politicians. Are they serving us or they are serving their own personal needs? These are questions that we should be asking all of them, both NDC and NPP. Because over the last few years, they have all gone through this idea of increasing, revising the ESLA, revising all this, and nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. Every day we are told that we have new debt. We have to deal with it. For me, this is what I find unfortunate about this whole thing that has happened in the last 24 hours.
Right. Let me say good morning to Hamza. Hamza Suyini is a member of the NDC's communication team. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Nana.
to see you.
Good to see you too. And
Very
good
well.
morning to my colleagues on the show. And of course, our cherished viewers out there.
Very well. Dennis, let me come to you.
I thought you let him explain to me what this was. Because you know the thing,
He came to meet you.
it was done under agency, so maybe if I have a better understanding. Honestly speaking, I don't know if, do you have a proper understanding of what they are trying to do?
No, we'll need
Exactly,
to see
so
the
let him
document
explain to us.
exactly what-
That is
Let's-
the
I
reason
think
why you
it's-
have to speak.
I
But
think
in
it's
any
fair
case,
that
I
he
think that it
explains
is
to
fair
us.
that it is fair. He's right.
Are
It is
we
fair
always
that
going to use consumers as a stopgap funding mechanism?
You see, not entirely so. And Nana, it is important for us to put the discussion in perspective. I can understand the simplistic overview that has been given by my senior comrade, Mr. Kosi. But in truth, it is not only problematic to attempt to equate toll levy to that of the ESLA that was introduced for a specific sector. Because toll was dealing with the specific sector, toll levy was dealing with a specific sector of thermal oil refinery.
And it failed.
Arguably so. But if you look at the energy sector levy, it engulfs the entire energy sector. So it is not just an aspect of the energy sector, but the entire energy sector for that matter. So that distinction needs to be drawn. So it is not that ESLA has not been around. It started in 2015. That point needs to be made. So
And
it's not
that's
the,
10 years.
yes, and
Has it
that,
achieved its
so
objective?
clearly. So
Yes,
that is why I'm saying that.
again, let's
Please,
correct it.
please,
The ESLA
please.
assumed the 6-4.
Nana, are you going to
Yes,
allow
yes.
this?
Right.
Stated.
Engineer, let's have,
Are you going to allow
So to say I give you a simplistic view, it's not.
It is
not
a
fair.
simplistic overview of the
Hamza,
situation. But you see,
you have the floor.
that being said, it is important to understand that to appreciate this latest increment, one needs to understand where we came from and how we have ended where we have gotten to. You remember that when we were confronted with the doomsday challenges somewhere 2013, 2014, so much investments were made in thermal plant generation to complement our hydro generation capacity. What that simply meant was that there was the need for a government or the government of the day then to be proactive in terms of how sustainable these thermal plants were going to be. Because remember, you would have needed liquefied fuels to be able to power most of these thermal plants. And if you look at the price buildup of electricity then, no projections were made to include the cost of liquefied fuels into the price buildup. What it simply meant was that government was meant to bear the cost of fueling these thermal plants. And you see, Nana, I'm not just talking about one thermal plant. You remember Car Power and Ameri? You remember AXA, Ameni and was AXA and Send Power and Early Power. These were introductions into our energy mix that needed to be run on liquefied fuels, including LNG. So, but unfortunately, because of our price buildup, as far as electricity was concerned, did not anticipate something like that. It simply meant that government had to bear that cost. Now, His Excellency President Mahama, being a proactive and progressive leader, mooted the idea of ESLA and proceeded to give it that legal backing. So that at least, if for nothing at all, the proceeds from ESLA would be enough to retire the legacy debts that confronted the energy sector.
Right.
And also position us in a way to be able to provide the needed fueling in terms of cost to run these thermal plants. This was the objective. Now, we were faced with a situation that we lost power in 2016. And so a new government came into power. The reasonable thing for any government to do that is actually concerned about the safety of our energy sector and appreciates its linkages to the economy, for that matter, the needed thing for them to have done was simply to invest in the energy sector. You agree with me, even around this table, that for 8 years, the NPP failed to put in place the necessary investments in the energy sector for 8 good years. In addition to that, they also succeeded in mismanaging the process of ESLA to a point that it was collateralized for 15 good years. So what it simply meant was that even the process that we were likely to get from ESLA was geared towards retiring those debts that government had accrued using ESLA. So clearly, even the financial opportunity to be able to retire our debts were taken away. But remember, because President Mahama appreciated the cost of fuel, that was why we fast-tracked the processes that led to the installation and construction of the Atuabo gas processing plant, intended to bring down the cost of these liquefied fuels as far as the powering of our thermal plants were concerned. Another progressive introduction. Unfortunately, for 8 years, we did not have any of this. So they ran on the basis of the investments President Mahama made in his first term. Without no addition to our generation and no novel introduction of financing mechanism to ensure that we're able to retire the legacy debts. It is not surprising that even before the 2024 election, in November, President Mahama had cause to hint, if you remember, that the NPP was simply preparing the grounds to hand over a doomsday-ridden energy sector to him because they had failed to make the necessary investments, and on top of that proceeded to mismanage ESLA and its proceeds. So we knew that upon assumption of office, one of the problems we needed to fix, if indeed we want to actually reform our economy, was simply the energy sector. Nana, that is why if you listen to His Excellency President Mahama in his first State of Nation address, he indicated the dire straits the energy sector found itself and recounted then that we were owing an amount of about 70 billion Ghana cedis. A week or two after that, the National Economic Dialogue Conference that was held in the Accra International Conference Center came out with an updated figure of about 80 billion Ghana cedis left behind for this government to manage. What it meant was that government needed to cough out that amount of money to be able to keep our energy sector moving. Now, what did we do as a responsible government? We knew that we were taking over from a regime that had subjected the good people of this country to so much economic hardships. And so even though the World Bank and IMF, they were proposing 50% jump in electricity tariffs, the government said no. We would not be able to subject the ordinary Ghanaian to such unreasonable hikes. And so it is our responsibility to find ways of ameliorating the hardship if at all we are likely to introduce any form of measure in terms of taxes in that sector. And so we zoom straight into action. The question is,
what, the 14%?
Wait, no. The question is, what did we do? We appreciated that because of the domestic debt exchange program and other draconian taxes that were introduced by the NPP regime, another introduction of a tax, coupled with, of course, the cedi depreciation, another introduction of a tax would have meant more hardship for the Ghanaian people. So a responsible government, the first objective was simply how to minimize the burden on the Ghanaian people. That's why we proceeded to take out Levy. We proceeded to take out betting tax. And in addition to that, we rolled out policies intended to ensure stability in the exchange rate, and also that eventually led to the appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi. And when we unleashed those policies, we started seeing the impact of those policies not long ago. Prices have started coming down. As we speak today, the 16 Ghana cedi per liter we inherited, we managed to move it down to 12 Ghana cedis today. So we have positioned the country in such a way that we are now financially sound to be able to confront the challenges that we've always known about in the energy sector that we're inheriting from the NPP. So if today, because of our management of the economy, to ensure that we ease the burden on the Ghanaian people, we are demanding a 1 Ghana cedi increase. That brings the price of liter of petroleum from 12 to 13, still less than the 16 Ghana cedis we inherited, and managed to bring down to 12 cedis, so that we would be able to retire some of the debts that have been left for us. In the production of, in the liquefied fuels alone, we owe IPPs to the tune of about 3.7 billion or $3.1 billion. That money needs to be retired. On top of that, there's projection that
Should
every
that be
year.
the burden of the consumer?
No, but that is what I've just explained. If consumers were paying 16 Ghana cedis per liter, and because we were sensitive to the Ghanaian people, we thought that there was a need for us to give them some relief and manage
better. That's why the
but
Ghanaians
that is
voted
better.
for
13 Ghana cedis and 16 Ghana cedis, which is better?
Between the two, 13 is better.
Absolutely. So, but that's the point I'm making. You see, and it is even simplistic to look at it from that perspective. I've just given you a recount of how we have even removed some taxes, e-levy, COVID, sanitation levy, and the likes, emissions levy rather, and the likes. So that tells you the kind of freedom we created, and because of the management of the city as well. Now our city is doing well against major currencies. What is simply meant is that it is beginning to reflect in the low prices of goods and services. Lesser burden on the ordinary Ghanaian. So we have now been created or given the opportunity to now pass through. We are simply calling the Ghanaian people to at least make available 1 Ghana cedis per liter. And the effect of that will not be felt because, like obviously 16 and 13 Ghana, which is better. So there's the need for us to have this perspective. We never said that we're not going to introduce taxes when those taxes needed to be introduced. We only made a promise that we're going to take away nuisance taxes that they introduced. And we are committed to that promise. And let me make this point. What timing is unfair?
This approach of always taxing the consumer.
No, you see, that is, but you see, the point is that every nation runs on the basis of taxation.
Granted.
But what you need to know is the quantum of taxes. These guys were experts in churning out taxes, in borrowing under questionable circumstances. And you see, we are not like them. Let me add this point. You remember, one of the challenges that confronted the energy sector that was engineered by their incompetence, and I'm happy that my brother is here because, in fact, his boss, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, championed the process. You remember the PDS? The cost implications of PDS alone and the corrupt, reckless, and incompetent nature that they handled it led to about $2.1 billion loss to the state. Money that could have come in to cushion the energy sector. So these are some of the incompetent legacies that we have had to confront with. But like I indicated, as a social democratic party and as a president that is sensitive to the plight of the Ghanaian people, we knew that from January, February, March, April, and May were not opportune time to be introducing taxes to more or less contain the challenges in the energy sector. We knew that that was an opportunity for us to begin to work to lessen the burden on the Ghanaian people. And we went straight to work. Today, my senior comrade would agree that prices of fuels have come down. Today, he would agree that when we said that we're going to remove betting tax, we did. Today, he would agree that there's no more emissions levy. Today, he would agree that our city is performing better and it is having a reflection on our economy. So we have been able to effectively rather lessen the burden on the Ghanaian people. And at the back of that, we are simply saying that, look, if you look at sustainability in our energy sector, it is tied to our economic development. And the only way for us to have our economic fundamentals right and ensure that it is sustained, we must all agree as a nation as to how to finance this huge bill that the MPP left for us in excess of $3 billion. It was not John Dramani Mahama who left that bill. And if they had better managed ESLA, I am sure that we wouldn't have been here.
We're all talking revenue mobilization. No one is talking fiscal discipline. No one is
No,
talking...
but you see, then again, you
efficiency.
cannot fault this government when it comes to fiscal discipline. We have demonstrated same. Today, this year alone, we are spending at least less than 2 or 3 billion than they spent in 2020 and 2019. 2024 and 2023. Again, this is a government that has so far demonstrated its commitment to running a lean regime.
So can
we have less than 60 ministers in place now.
Operational efficiency.
But again, what is your understanding of fiscal discipline? I'm just telling you that the fiscal disciplinary measures that the government has introduced.
And the finance minister efficiency to address this problem instead of taxing. It's like
no, you see, then you are missing the point. You are missing, apart from the inefficiencies.
The revenue mobilization.
No. It's one of the ways, and that is why I've told you that government is already engaged. For instance, unlike they did with ECG, running it down. Today, look at the ECG budget. It has been brought down. If you look at many of the sectors, government has decided to be austere in terms of its expenditure. You are in the media and you follow some of these discussions. We are austere. Unlike them, we are not spending recklessly. And that is why I'm giving you examples of how this government has demonstrated prudence to fiscal measures.
Very well.
So until we agree that we are at a stage and we are dealing with a government that understands where we are and where we need to go, and appreciate that most of the fiscal intervention measures that are driven are austere in nature. And so we are not even being reckless in our expenditure. And our management so far is beginning to yield results and has lessened the burden on the Ghanaian people. At this stage, my brother Nana, it is only proper and fair that in addition to our austerity measures, that we also look at ways of raising revenue to ensure that at least Ghanaians actually pay for what we give them in terms of electricity. Because you know that as far as the electricity bills are concerned, like I indicated, it does not include the liquefied fuel component. And in one way or the other in the future, we would have to pay for it. And if care is not taken and we fail to pay for it, we'll further run down institutions like ECG.
Thank you, your thoughts?
You know, I've never been attentive like this in my life in a very long time.
This one, you're a good student.
Because I was shaken last night when I heard that behind the backs of Ghanaian people, under the cover of darkness, when all of us were going to have our dinner, that was when we saw flyers that this wicked government has imposed a whooping, 1 Ghana cedi, on every liter of fuel that we buy. For proper context for the Ghanaian people, we understand fuel purchase in gallons. So I prefer to use the gallons.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that last night, this wicked, insensitive government imposed about 4 cedis to 4 cedi 50 pesos. 4 cedi 50 pesos on every gallon.
400% increase.
On every gallon of fuel that we buy. That is fact. You see, we find ourselves in a situation where we're saddled. And we simply have on our hands, or we have a clueless, everlasting, incompetent bunch of arrogant braggarts who have just come themselves into power. I told you here the last time, and he's had 17 minutes of unhindered preaching. And I pray he gives me that. So please take note of the time. We prefer to stay on the NDC and the fiduciary relationship they've built with the Ghanaian people. I will not even go into their history. We have a finance minister who talks so much, and at this vetting was asked, all these things you are saying, you are surely going to have revenue shortfalls. And there are issues in this country that need to be dealt with. How are you going to be able to raise revenue to deal with these things and make sure that the Ghanaian people don't suffer for it? And Doomsor was one of the things that were brought up. This is his response. And I'll simply quote what he said. He said that we don't need more taxes to raise revenue. That's the finance minister.
But why are you quoting this one?
Enjoy Online.
Right.
January 13th, 2025. And I watched it. The video is also here. I can give it to you to play. It was at his vetting. Then he goes on to give us a long lecture about the number of years of experience he's had in public affairs, in the economy of this country, and how he believes that we don't need more taxes to be able to raise revenue, and that he and his government we're going to raise the needed revenue to do all the things they promised. I remember his vetting. His vetting was one of the vettings that I sat down to really, consume. And this one really gave us a very long lecture and told us that he doesn't think, there is no way he was going to even go into the issue of taxes. And that he rather thinks that we should remove all the taxes he called nuisance taxes. And that even if all those taxes are removed, and I remember correctly that the minority asked him that digital venture is the future. And e-levy is only the base, starting to try and ensure that when we get to the future, we'll be ready. And so if you remove this e-levy and all of its revenue gap that you're going to have, how are you going to deal with it? He said, no, forget it. I remember again correctly that Afenyo Markins put it to him that from what you have done, you are surely going to introduce new taxes. He said, no, you and your party were incompetent. And that is why you had those taxes. And we would run this economy, run this country, fulfill all our promises without introducing any new tax. I am hurt this morning. I am pained. I am really, really pained. I am sad. There is nothing, there is no gravest offense in this world than betrayal of trust. None. None in this world, no sin in this world beats betrayal of trust. That people entrust their lives and their future in your care, believing that you will live at least up to your own words. Forget eventualities. Forget things that will come along the line, but what you told them. Then we wake up 5 months into your tenure. You come and tell us that you have brought the burden of Ghanaians down. That is what he's saying. That he has brought the burden of Ghanaians down. And so we should, in the words of the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, Honorable, we should accept just 1 cedi. He calls it 1 cedi per. 1 cedi per. That's what he calls it. That's what he says we should give them. To fix a situation that was not there until they came. To fix a situation that was not there until they came to office. 8 years of the MPP in government. This country had stable power for 8 years, irrespective of what the challenges could be at the time. Irrespective of what the situation was, there was power. 8 years. We had crisis for 8 weeks. What burden has been reduced, Nana? What burden? Today, we buy cement, a bag of cement that used to sell between 85 cedis to 90 cedis. We buy it for 130 cedis. That is the burden they have reduced. Today, tomatoes that was selling for 2 for 5 cedis is selling for 1 for 10 cedis. That is the burden they have reduced. And he tells us that he reduced burden. Burden has gone down. And so everybody is doing well in this country. All your viewers watching, this country is doing fantastically well. When you and I know that in this country, it is not the dollar to cedi exchange rate that impacts the things we buy on our market. You and I know. It is the fuel pricing. Why are you doing this to us? Why? When I call this government a scam government, a settings and packaging government, this is what I mean. They knew from the get-go that the things they were doing were just facade to let the Ghanaian people feel that they have brought some miracles into this country and that they are removing taxes and still they'll be able to do the things. They knew. They knew that in the month of May, getting into June, they were going to introduce taxes to make up for the shortfalls. Otherwise, what sense is there for you to come and tell us that e-levy, which is 1%, so if you buy anything at 100 cedis by choice, if you decide to use electronic transfer by choice, you pay how much? 1 cedi.
1 cedi.
You tell us that it is a burden, it's a nuisance tax. Remember, not every Ghanaian needs to use electronic transaction. You have to choose. You can decide to work and go, you don't pay. You call it a nuisance. And then you say, you are removing it, we should praise you. Then you remove a tax that was not even in force. Emission tax that was not even in force. You say, we should clap for you. Then, what is the other tax they remove? Betting tax. That is not even being utilized or consumed by even 1% of the population. How many Ghanaians in this country watching you, who killed to vote for you, actually engage in betting, let alone be affected or impacted by betting tax? We should clap for you. Then 2 months down the line, 2 months down the line after asking us to clap for you for removing taxes that do not have so much impact on us, especially betting tax and emission tax, you come and introduce 4 cedis per gallon of fuel that we buy, and you tell us it's just 4 cedis. And that it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Did emission tax matter? Was it a big deal? Did you ever pay emission tax? Did he ever pay betting tax in his life? But he was making noise and screaming over it. Why do you betray the trust of people in this manner? Why? Why do you betray the trust of people in this manner? Then he tells us, oh no, it's 3.7 billion that we have to, debt that we have to pay. And this is debt saddled on us by the MPP government. You left 2.5 billion debt in the energy sector. 2.5 billion debt. That is how much you left in the energy sector.
And you increased it.
8 years, we sat with a 2.5 billion debt and still kept power on. Without increasing any taxes on the Ghanaian people to buy fuel for the energy sector. Why do you do this to the people? Then you come and tell us that, they should tell us for 8 years they didn't do any investment in the energy sector. They didn't do anything capacity. Absolute falsehood.
Did you?
In the year 2017, we added 603 megawatts of power. Capacity installed. AXA 188, Asogli 180, Car Powership 235. In 2018, we installed 490, AXA Phase 2 110, Send Power 360, Me Energy 20. In 2019, we installed TT2PP 7, Amandi 203, Jensa 29. In 2020, Early Power installed 144. We Solar was introduced 10. VRA Solar 7.5, and then another one Chachadru Hydro that gave us 161 in 2020. In 2021, Damine Jensa that gave us 28. We Solar added 41. VRA Solar added 10, that was 79. In 2023, VRA Solar Kalio Phase 2 added 15. B Power Floating added 4, that was 19 in 2023. And then in 2024, Early Power added 56. So you see, if you come and sit on TV and
you're correcting,
you make these plays, you had 17 minutes of uninterrupted. You can make your correction when you get a chance. And then you make such, falsehood, complete falsehood.
Yeah.
It's sad. Not only is it sad, it is painful and hurtful to the people who trusted you and your government. That is not all. Beyond the energy, the investment we did in ensuring that these installed capacity were added, this government, MPP government, made a lot of investment in the distribution. And the last time I was here, I listed all of them here on this same show. And I don't want to belabor the point. Several of them, in terms of distribution and transmission. Now, we all know what the challenge of this country's energy situation is. The distributor is one of the biggest challenges. Your energy minister sat on TV, met the press, and said that the MPP government was incompetent. He doesn't think that we need to do anything extraordinary to fix the energy crisis. And I'm quoting him. He said, in 100 days, I will block and stop the losses at ECG, make it profitable to fix the energy situation. This is the energy minister. It has been close to 160 days. You haven't been able to cut the losses in ECG, and you are adding on taxes, and you are telling us it's just 1 cedi, and you are using some absurd justification, completely absurd justification to the people, and telling us that in 150 days or 160 days, you have made our lives and made Ghana like heaven, and so you can afford to come and impose taxes on us, and we should shut up without saying anything. We shouldn't speak because you have made our life easy. You have reduced burden. The Ghanaian person is doing well, so much that there is gold on the street, and so you can afford to come and add 1 cedi. What is the logic in removing 1 cedi from 100 cedis e-levy transaction and bringing 1 cedi on a 12 cedi mandatory transaction?
But the argument is that if they were paying for 16 cedis and now it's 13 cedis, it's still better.
Why then are you telling us that you are reducing our burden? You see, when you make a covenant, you must stick to the covenant. You came to tell us that you don't need to bring taxes. You told us. And then you said we should even clap for you. Even this morning he said that we should clap for him. That they have removed so-called nuisance taxes. In the last 16 years, have you seen a nuisance tax as a nuisance as this one? In the last 16 years.
Would you admit that
in the last 16 years, have you seen any tax as nuisance as this doomsday levy, D-levy that the NDC have introduced?
That's what you're calling it.
But that is what it is. They said it. It says to fix doomsday D-levy. That is what it is. And then they say they have removed nuisance taxes and that the MPP introduced so much taxes. The MPP is a government that in one budget removed between 16 to 21 taxes in one budget. Are you not aware? 21 taxes were removed in one budget by the MPP. I would not have been having this conversation but for their own words. That is why I'm raising issues. Otherwise, government is responsible for raising revenue and expending. But you see, when you brag and talk plenty and you say big things and you turn around to come and do the same thing that you spoke against, people will be hurt. And I am pained. I won't lie to you. Let me tell you, you can bring the city to 5 cedi. Its positive impact on the Ghanaian people will not be felt as much as increasing fuel by 1 cedi. I am telling you that for a fact. Dollar has moved from 14.7 to 11 cedis today. 3 cedis have been removed from dollar. The impact is not going to be felt as this 1 cedi. You wait and see how the impact of this 1 cedi is going to be felt on the Ghanaian people. Why? Because the woman who has her goods, who goes from Medina to go and buy her plantain from Adoso, when you sit in that car from Medina to Adoso, the driver is going to impose additional cost on that. This government has introduced 14% increase in electricity bill. They told us that this 14% is necessary because they are supposed to make sure that the IPPs are able to recover their money. Is that not what they told us? The same IPP is referring to. Is that not what they told us? 14% increase in electricity. Abba.
Could the minority have stayed and made
You did this same 14%. You did this same energy increase politics when you are in opposition. Come on, 14%. 14%. In 2024, MPP did the adjustment of the utility sector, and it was even reduced. You came to increase by 14%. Then, after increasing it by 14%, you come and impose 1 cedi on fuel, petrol that everybody buys. Nobody can avoid this 1 cedi D-levy that the NDC have introduced to us. Why? Why? And when we say it, they tell us that we should. Let me tell you, this government, the real effects of what this government is doing, this country will see it from next year. Right now, even as I'm speaking, because I'm an MPP man, and the goodwill is still there for the NDC. Somebody is saying, MPP, it's okay. But I'm telling you that they are using the cover of the goodwill to do all the mess that they have to do to the Ghanaian people. Have you thought about it? Are you aware of how much iron rods are today in this country? Do you know how much a bag of cement costs? 45 cedis increase. That's how much they brought onto the Ghanaian people. They never mentioned that. They will simply tell you that they brought dollar from 14 cedis to 11 cedis. But they never tell you that prices of goods are going up. And that the only things that are going down are the things that the ordinary Ghanaian doesn't usually access. When you tell them to give you examples, they'll give you examples of high-end glamour stores on the Sprinters Road who are selling sofa for $17,000, $18,000, who have done banners and said because dollar has come down, they brought it down. You and I, how many of us go to those glamour stores to go and buy sofa? They should tell us how much the dollar reduction has impacted tomato sale on the market, onion, pepper. Those are the things that the Ghanaian people consume. Don't come and show us notices of glamour stores on Cantonment and Laboni Street and East Legon Street and tell us that that is evidence of reduction. And you are sitting on TV and using reductions that burger style stores have used in their shops to determine the burden you have removed from the Ghanaian people. I feel like crying. I feel like crying. These guys told us that they will not do this. They said they will not increase taxes. They said it is on TV. Nana, it's on TV. That's what they told us. They demonized the MPP government. How do you think that a government that gave you power for 8 years is wicked? 8 years is wicked, but one that is imposing a tax on you whilst you even don't have the power. Do you know the effect of this? Are you aware that even industries are going to suffer this? There were a lot of factories in Tema who run on fuel. Their machines in their plants run on fuel. They are going to add this to the cost of production. Some are going to be forced to lay off workers. Why? What did we do wrong? We didn't sell Ghana to the NDC. We only voted for them. We didn't sell Ghana. We didn't put ourselves under slavery. And when you say, they say, shut up, don't talk. When you say, they say, shut up, don't talk. This morning when I step out, I am going to buy my own fuel. He probably is not going to buy because maybe his brother will give him some fuel coupons from government, from the ministry. But I am going to buy and I'm going to pay 1 cedi. And then when I say, oh, shut up because you are MPP, what do you mean? They are putting pepper in our eyes and telling us, I will wrap up. They are putting pepper in our eyes and asking us not to cry. They are putting pepper in our eyes and asking us not to cry. What you have done today, that you are saying we should clap for you, how different is it from the Levy that MPP did and said we should be voted out of power? How different is that? How different is that? What you have done today, how different is that? Why? And you don't even give us the altar of respect, the slightest of respect. You are saying, shut up, it's just 1 cedi. Time will tell.
Thank you, Dennis. Engineer, let me come to you. I'll give you 2 minutes on this so we can wrap up on this subject.
So listening to my colleagues, I still maintain the position that our political parties have been very inefficient in managing this country since this Fourth Republic. Again, the first thermal asset in this country was introduced in 1997 in Abuazi.
Yeah.
So if a government which claims to be responsible did not begin to factor in the cost of energy in terms of liquid fuel and gas fuel into the billing of electricity, then we have a problem.
Why do you think
I'm saying that, look, 1997, it took you 10 years to start factoring the cost of fuel for a thermal asset into electricity bills. That tells you clearly that our governments are not interested in solving problems. All they're interested in is how do we make some money on the side. Clearly, these are the inefficiencies that I point to. Now, when you talk about PDS, again, true, PDS is part of our crisis in the energy sector, in the downside. What have we done as politicians? Have we held anybody accountable? No. The next thing we are doing is let us pass on costs to the Ghanaian people.
No, you have your turn.
Again.
You have your
Again.
turn. Investigations are ongoing, but
you should look up when I shouldn't
there are no convictions at this point.
No, but can the president just get up and start throwing people behind bars? You know that we are run by rules.
Let's be sincere. These are the inefficiencies I talk about when I say our governments are not interested in solving problems. The TOR issue, let me bring it again. Go and look at the law, ESLA law, and see whether it doesn't take into TOR account TOR. And again, it's not part of the energy sector. So if there's an energy sector levy, it's still not part of it. Exactly, I'm saying it was. But when you go and look at the law that ESLA, it talks about the fact that it is removing this and is incorporating it all into it. So to say that TOR is not, it's neither here nor there. The point again is what was TOR set up to do and what is TOR doing today? Do we need it? If we don't, let's be decisive and stop appointing chief executives and people there simply because we are in office and want people to be in positions and compensate them for campaigning. Then, again, to simply say we're introducing 1 cedi, the question I ask is, why do governments consistently behave as if Ghanaians have a tree in their house on which money is and every day they plug it? So say, oh, we are only asking you to pay 1 cedi. What happened to all of us? That Ghanaians simply, everyone has a tree in their house. They wake up every morning and they plug money from it. So government can choose at any time and say, well, I'm going back to the Ghanaian people to ask them for money. These are the kind of thinking that I think our politicians has not been fair to us. And look at the arguments that have gone on here. It is not about how we are actually solving the problem. It is about who has done worse than the other. For me, again, these are not the kind of discussions we should be having. What we should be asking ourselves sincerely, did the TOR recovery work? Has the ESLA worked? These are the questions that run through all of them. And yet they are all running away from it. Simply saying that the other has performed worse than the other is no argument for me. And these are the kind of things that we should be holding our politicians to. And not these arguments of MPP did worse, NEC did worse.
Nana again, another simplistic submissions by my senior colleague, but I'll come to it. First of all, on a lighter note, Dennis, I'm a very responsible man with a wife and children. I take care of them. I don't ply my life, run my life on the benevolence of family members. I work hard.
Why? Family supporting family.
Yes, they can, but I work hard. I said maybe if I walk out of the studios, you are better than me because you just came out of government. When I walked in and I saw what you were wearing, I was like, wow. this is the Baumia campaign man speaking.
You're 2 minutes
so I
behind.
can understand.
He has 30 seconds.
You know,
He has 30 seconds.
So you are better than me. Of course, you can afford it even now better than I can. But you see, listening to my brother, the question that kept ringing in my head was, is this Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's spokesperson in the last election? And if yes, did he actually understand the man he was speaking for? No wonder his activities as spokesperson was clearly tangential to a very large extent to the objectives of even the New Patriotic Party and its flag bearer. His flag bearer told us in the not too distant past that to understand your economy and how well you are doing, you needed to look at your exchange rate. Today, the official spokesperson of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia tells us that the performance of your exchange rate doesn't matter.
Did I say that?
And that it has no effect on the life of the ordinary Ghanaian.
The real value is what.
That was the deduction. You can put all the spin you want on it. Clearly. Because he's driven by the propaganda motive. He's even disagreeing with his own flag bearer. That level of dishonesty was what characterized their campaigns. And that's why he's in this chair today, opposition chair. And so they should be learning. Secondly, this is a gentleman who was convinced that lies could earn them political power. In the last election, we have come to the realization, and he should, that lies cannot help you win political power. You don't sit in this chair and lie and give an impression as if the NDC said that they were not going to introduce taxes. I have before me our campaign, our 2024 manifesto, 924, where in that manifesto has it been stated that the National Democratic Congress will not introduce new taxes. But in that same document, we have indicated that we will scrap nuisance taxes. And we have scrapped them. And we made specific reference to 1.11. We said, look, the next NDC government will enhance revenue mobilization and create an equitable and efficient tax system by broadening the tax base, reviewing the extractive sector regime to enhance Ghana's stake in our natural resource. That's a component of taxation. We said we will review the tax exemption regime to promote transparency, economic growth, technology transfer, and job creation. Ways of raising revenue through taxation.
Right. But they did say introduction of new taxes. But
that is the point I am making. You cannot be reviewing extractive sector regime to enhance Ghana's stake without thinking of taxation in the regime. And to some extent, ownership. And that is not even all. We said we are also going to review the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to maximize petroleum revenue for development. Maximize. That's the word. So unlike them, we do not engage in politics of deceit and lies. His number one problem is what his flag bearer accused the NDC of. They failed to read. They don't read. So don't sit around this table and engage in that falsehood. Again, another lie that my brother peddled with confidence. And this was the kind of confidence that characterized their campaign, if you remember. Lie.
Which lie is this?
An addition to our generation capacity. And he's making references to AXA and the like. Who introduced AXA? When we listen, I'll explain it to you. When we installed them and brought them into the system, remember they made noise about excess capacity. You renegotiated the terms of these transactions to put on hold those excess, what you termed as excess capacity. When you were faced with the reality, you simply went back to them to renegotiate the terms so that they could increase their generating capacity. You did not install those generating capacities. So if you sit around this table and you are lying through your teeth, as though you increased or you bought something novel like we did. Today we can talk of AXA, we can talk of Send Power, we can talk of Car Power, and Ameri and the likes. We can talk all of them. But you refer to them as excess capacity and renegotiated. To a point when you were caught.
Did the renegotiation lead to an addition?
No. What happened was that what they referred to as excess capacity, they said they didn't have use for it. But what they didn't know, that the National Democratic Congress, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, knew that annually electricity consumption increased by approximately 10%.
Right.
And so we had made projections even into the future and knew that we would need it. So when they were faced with the reality, they went back to renegotiate to bring most of these things back on stream. That's why he's making references to. and calling addition to our generation capacity.
Well,
Again, you see,
And
he
land
asked a
on this
question.
one for
Please,
me.
please, out.
Yeah.
No, please.
Land on this one for me.
Today,
Land
he
on this
asked a
one for me.
question. Unlike them, the National Democratic Congress and His Excellency President Mahama is very sensitive in our policy choices. Look, he can decide to run propaganda on the value of 1 Ghana cedi as much as we want. 1 Ghana cedi, we appreciate that it is not small money. But we also know that depending concerning what we have achieved, regarding what we have achieved within this short period, it is an invitation we can humbly appeal to the Ghanaian people to make. And because he understands, I've not landed, please, because you gave him time, please. And because he understands that the Ghanaian people will understand the situation the NDC finds itself. That is why he's saying that goodwill. What is a simplistic meaning of goodwill? Understand, because he knows that because of the road they left behind, the Ghanaian people can understand this 1 Ghana cedi introduction that we are introducing, not because it is cheap.
Right.
You see, and finally, you see, Nana.
Hamza.
No, please, I need to make this point. You see, he said that he asked a question. He asked a question that what situation have they left behind us and we are fixing? Is it John Mahama who left 3.8 billion debt that we owe to the IPPs? Why didn't they pay that money?
Well,
the 1.2 billion that will be paid now. You see, this is not a government that is spending over $50 million
Hamza,
in a so-called hole under the name of building a cathedral. This is a government that is very responsible in its choices. And to the good people of this country.
We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll continue with this discussion. You're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is the news review segment on Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne Television. I'll come to you, Dennis, and then you wrap up the conversation on this energy sector levy, this introduction of 1 cedis.
And I would ignore all the personal, unrelated, irrelevant comments by Hamza and deal with the meat of the issues, because clearly we have a country to run and it's serious business. Yeah. And we are not going to allow them to beat around the bush and divert attention. The fact of the matter is that this government is a complete scam. You see, you have a government whose finance minister goes to parliament and responds to the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana and tell them specifically, direct reference to issues of revenue and expenditure. And he says that we do not have to increase taxes to be able to get the needed revenue to do what we want to do. In this same fiscal year, this same budget, because this budget was under scrutiny, this same budget. Then, when they come under the cover of darkness to introduce one of the most insensitive taxes this country has seen in the past 20 years. And he's questioned, he says that we didn't capture it in our manifesto. What the finance minister said is not what they captured in their manifesto. So right now, we don't even know which of their words we should take. Whether when the president comes to speak to us on TV, we should take it, or we should always go and look at his manifesto and see what he wrote in the manifesto. That is what this country has brought upon ourselves. That is what this country has brought upon ourselves. And then, when we, you see, what you do this to me, and you are going to speak. You are going to speak. When we speak, the arrogance with which these guys talk to us, as if they have the right over our lives, and that we cannot breathe when they are there, it's what baffles me. And honestly speaking, I admire their courage and confidence. And all I say is that give time, some time.
But you predicted this.
You, this government, who were moving from house to house with your hands in your hands together, begging, with your knees on the ground, crying, sitting on the floor on the street of this country, that this country is in trouble because of one tax, one single tax.
Levy.
You are sitting on TV. I'm telling you that, let him tell us one tax in the last 12 or 16 to 20 years that is wicked than this particular tax. That you buy a gallon of fuel and you pay 4 cedi 50 pesos for 1 gallon. The president himself said yesterday also that the dollar cedi is going to hover around 10 to 12 cedis. What it means is that we are likely to see an additional increase of 2 cedis. Okay, based on his own words.
End the year.
Okay, do you know what's likely to happen with that? Once it goes up, the fuel will go up. And that 1 cedi is still going to be on it. You see, these people, they are taking us for fools. Excuse my language, as a country. And they are taking us on a wild goose chase without any particular plan. They have no clue what they are doing. They are just moving with the tide. They are moving with the waves, and they try to jump around and they pick and choose which argument they make. That we come into office, you have signed very, very, very strangling contract. You take or pay.
Yeah.
And then that take or pay is the reason why we are where we are today. That is a matter of fact, because we are taking so much power than we're able to use and even generate the revenue to pay for it. You understand what I'm saying? Then you come and ask the same government, that same government who has sat with this and let power be stable all this period. You come and tell us that, oh, you didn't introduce any capacity within our energy sector within your period. You didn't introduce it. It doesn't matter the fact that you had over what is it 6,000 or 16,000 installed capacity? Over 16,000. Please hold on.
Share of time.
Over 16,000. See this thing that you are doing.
Hamza,
I never interrupted you, even if it's 30 seconds. Over 16,000 megawatts of power added to our energy. No, it's not for them. It's not you. And why is it not you? Because you went to negotiate. I don't even know which law. Which law says that negotiation isn't part of the transaction? Which law? The contract you yourself you signed. No, please don't. The contract you signed. The contract you signed with AXA, was it a negotiation? The contract you signed with Sempower, was it a negotiation? The fact of the matter is that you lied, that MPP government added no new capacity. We added 16,000 megawatts of installed capacity to these countries. What is renegotiated? What is renegotiated? What do you mean by renegotiated?
What's the total generation
Can you stop it? Can you stop it?
That's an outlawed lie. 16,000 megawatts. What's the total generation capacity in our country?
1,600. That's the point. 1,600.
That's even another lie.
Can you
Hamza, please. You want him to end there?
I already gave you 603 we did in 2017. I gave you, it's not my final point, he disrupted me. 490 we did in 2018. No, wait, 2019 we did in 239 we did in 2019. 161 we did in 2020, 79 we did in 2021, 19 we did in 2023, and 56 we did in 2024. Never stand anywhere and peddle that falsehood that the MPP government added no new generation capacity to our energy sector. The point I'm making, the way you are behaving, hold on. I can understand your agitation. I need to make this point. It's unfair to me. I can understand your agitation. But nobody,
you were the one timing me on this.
Nobody asked you to go on this tangent of scam. So calm down. Your eyes are red, you're agitated and everything, you're agitatory. It's unfair for you to be interrupting me in this manner.
Make your point.
I am saying that
because
no matter what he does,
because I caught you in a lie.
I just caught you. I just giving you how can you lie on everything like facts?
I thought you have changed,
but what? He's corrected the 16,000. Please.
Even the 1,600 is a lie.
Please allow him to land. Dennis, please make your point. Make your point.
1,600 and we are where we are. No, but he's past his time. Why do you say he should make his point? For what? Unless of course you are going to give me the time.
He's ending on this.
For how many minutes now? Hamza, you said 6 minutes.
And you were interjecting.
After the 16th minute.
Dennis, please land for me. 30 seconds on this.
When you speak for an incompetent government, okay, these are the sort of experiences you have on national TV, and you end up embarrassing yourself. The fact doesn't change, no matter what you say. The fact doesn't change that this morning, as we speak, the Ghanaian people are burdened with 4 cedis of every gallon of petrol that we buy.
Thank you.
That is what you need to fix for us.
Thank you. I'll take a few messages and then we'll move on to another subject. Hello. This one says, if I'm paying 16 a litre and now I'm paying 12, why can't we sacrifice for 1 CD for my light to be on? Okay, that's what you think. This one says, in fact, the government has just taken away a nuisance tax and brought in a criminal tax. It's surprising to hear those who campaign much with lies and propaganda about petroleum taxes are now increasing same taxes. This is Joe Baba from Bolga. Good morning, Nana. You see how Hamza is struggling to speak? Oh, is he struggling?
Everybody watching anyway. It's obvious. It's obvious. Anybody that disagrees with you.
Today we abolished e-levy and reintroduced another e-levy.
Isn't that
I'm not sure which one this is. It's clearly a betrayal of trust. I think politicians of today have one agenda, and that's to rub their people dry. I listened to the majority leader saying it's just 1 CD, but that's just for a litre. Multiply that by a gallon and see. He, the majority leader, was so guilty that he couldn't look in the camera. Can't say much. This is D. Bella Jr. from Kaswa. This one says, good morning, Nana. What did the NPP use the ESLA levy for? Did they not mortgage it for consumption? Was part of their accrued revenue not doled out to the corruption-rigged SML? they should give us a break. 1 cedi on a litre of fuel under the NDC government is still way better than the price of a litre of fuel under the NPP. This one says, if it's not Doomsor levy, they should come out and explain what kind of levy it is. High cost of rent is killing us, high cost of electricity and water, high cost of food, especially provisions, injustice everywhere, etc. And you're adding something you people spoke about is, okay. This one says, good morning, host. Ghanaians are complaining about the Doomsor and lack of funding is the cause, as we have come to know. Follows, my mother at 86 never went to the pumps, let alone to buy fuel. Religion teaches us to tax the rich for the benefits of the poor. Okay. A lot of messages coming in. We'll deal with that. But let's move into another issue which happens to do with His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He says that he will not influence corruption or anti-corruption agencies to drop cases. And this has to do with the number of issues being investigated, corruption and corruption-related offenses. Also, the president told us that subsequently some 33, I think, former appointees of the past administration will be facing trial for some corruption and corruption-related cases, all stemming out of the oral committee's work. This one I want to start with you, Hamza. The president sought to attribute the hurdle with fighting corruption to the influence or political influence. Your take on this?
I think it is important for me to respond briefly, as part of my time, to certain wrong impressions that
you have 6 minutes on this.
Yes.
So, yes.
You see, Nana, our brothers in the New Patriotic Party, in opposition especially, as part of the processes geared towards understanding why they lost power, they must learn when to shut up, open their ears and eyes and observe before they run commentary. They must spare us that nuisance posture that they are taking, especially considering the kind of rot they left behind for this government to confront. My brother is asking that we should point out one revenue mobilization drive under them. That was so heinous than that of the 1 Ghana cedi introduction in the petroleum build-up price. Has he forgotten the economic consequence on individuals, on banks, and savings of ordinary Ghanaians as a result of the domestic debt exchange program? The havoc it caused because of their drive to mobilize revenue through that system. Has he forgotten? Since independence, no government has been that reckless. And his boss was the chairman of the economic management team that drove us through this unconscionable and unforgivable mess that led to many of our compatriots losing their lives because of their poor economic policies.
Time is catching up.
You see, so that is the legacy. Unlike us, them, we are very sensitive. And that is why we are not even speaking down on the 1 Ghana cedi. And that is why it took us time for us to introduce it. And that's why I had to make references to the interventions that we had rolled out that in a way lessened the burden. I did not say that the burden has been taken away. Lessen the burden on the Ghanaian people. You can imagine the unconscionable burden this government would have been adding to the Ghanaian people if we still had the likes of betting tax and co. And he's asking what we have done. Has he forgotten that even in taking out betting tax, we told them where the shortfall was going to come from the tax refund account, the 2% that has been reserved. And that one alone would give this nation about 3.2 billion. And how have we spent that 3.2 billion? We have created jobs through the payment of the assembly members across the country. They are all going to be on salary as a result of that savings. So our policies have started touching the Ghanaian people. School feeding program has been increased. Capitation grant has been increased. Well, this is what this government has done within this short period of time.
Thank you.
With limited resources. So it is important for them to understand that this is not a government that would take the good people of this country for granted. We are very sensitive and we are very cautious when it comes to the policies we roll out. But we understand The energy sector is a sensitive area. We have done enormous investments in it, and there's a need for us to protect and sustain that legacy. And that is why we are going on this tangent. And I understand that the Ghanaian people will be more than willing to support us in that particular regard. Now, to the issue of prosecutions. One of the central planks of the National Democratic Congress campaign in the last election was issue of accountability.
Yeah.
And knowing President Mahama, remember that he's always maintained that when it comes to the operation of state agencies, he will do everything within his power to respect the sanctity of their establishing acts and allow them that freedom to be able to operate. Indeed, he's demonstrated it even with his dealings with the media. Remember, under his first term as president, many of our media houses and media personnel had the luxury of time and space and peace of mind to go about their daily activities without fear or favor. Under Nanado and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, we had a different story where media men were running out of this country for fear of their lives. Indeed, unfortunately, even Ahmad Swale was coldly murdered because of his work. So, when such a leader tells you that he will respect the laws of this country and not interfere, you can take that to the bank because he's trustworthy. And we said that he was trustworthy. And the evidence are there to support the assertion that you are dealing with a trustworthy leader. And we would be disappointed as members of the National Democratic Congress forming this government if we wake up to the realization that President Mahama is beginning to interfere in the activities of the state agencies, especially when it comes to the fight against corruption. Because we know that one of the major things the Ghanaian people are looking up to in terms of the assessment of this country is how we are able to hold the likes of Miracles Abuaji and his boss and appointees to order, to accountability. Of course, it doesn't mean that he's guilty. Just hold them accountable in terms of their stewardship in power. So President Mahama is a man you can trust, and he would not interfere. If at any point in time, any of the state agencies investigating a matter comes to say that, look, we have gone through the issues or allegations, you are cleared, His Excellency President Mahama will not direct otherwise.
Very well.
And that is how you build a governance system that is responsive to the needs of the Ghanaian people, and that is also beyond partisan machinations. Because if you are able to lead that example, thankfully, you remember what happened in the Chachichukata trial when President Kufuor obviously and directly had to intervene to secure a conviction. You do not have such evidence under President Mahama and the National Democratic Congress. And so we will do everything within our capability, within the legal limits of this country to ensure that people are held to accountable. So when the security agencies are working, people should stop calling on His Excellency President Mahama to intervene.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you, Hamza. Dennis, fighting corruption.
Nana, it's talk all day. I mean, are we all not getting tired? They should just get to work, okay? It's the same things they were saying when we saw some glimpse of hope in the exchange rate, and all of a sudden they've slapped that with this new tax, and they're asking us to shut up and keep quiet.
Corruption.
I'm just saying that, what is he saying? He's only talking. He's only talking. What is this thing about not interfere? Iyoko is not an independent organization. It's directly under the president.
Yeah.
Iyoko is not an independent organization. It's directly under the president. So what do you mean by you interfere? Everything Iyoko does, you are directly responsible. You appointed the head. The head reports to the
But he trusts these people to work
please. I am saying that it doesn't matter. Everybody appointed by the president works for the president. So it's just talk. You can never tell me that you are not going to interfere. You're not going to interfere with it. It is you acting. The point is that it is you acting. It's not an independent organization. It is only the independent organizations that you can say that, oh, maybe you'll not interfere. But Iyoko, NIB, National Security, that is you, the president, acting directly. Directly. You get daily briefings, you are getting hourly briefings. What do you mean by you interfere? You are just talk. It's just talk. I mean, he's the one acting. Whatever is going on with the Iyoko, NIB, he's the president. That's what it is. I mean, what else? Is it not the president that appointed the interior minister and national security minister? It's not the president that appointed the NIB head. It's not the president that appointed, in fact, the Iyoko boss. It's not the president that appointed the, what's the other one? Iyoko, national security, and NIB. It's not the president. So when you say you interfere, it is you acting, so you don't need to interfere. That is you. That is you there, right there. So what is the interference there? So, I mean, it should save us all of these things. What is important is that we all have laws. It is not the president that is making the laws for us. It is parliament. Let's allow the laws to work. He doesn't determine these things. In fact, he can't do anything about it. Even he acting as Yoko boss and NIB boss, as he speak now, it is the laws that he's going to use. Right. So he should spare us that. He should spare us that. We are here when he's introduced a lot of code of conduct, and you have the NDC MPs sitting in the Galamsey site encouraging the boys to mine. Have you seen the latest video of the MP for, is it Sashiri or so, encouraging your young boys to mine? He's standing there with them. You understand? So, I mean, we should spare us these things. Let's see these things in action. Because right now, Ghanaians are worried. They are looking at him with multiple eyes. Because now he and his government are turning out to be people who don't live by their words. The Minister for Energy says he would cut losses as ECG in 100 days. He hasn't been able to do it. They said they will stop doing so for all the months they've been in government. Doom so has prevailed. They said the finance minister says he doesn't need to introduce new taxes to raise revenue. He's introduced one of the most wicked taxes. You realize they still couldn't mention one tax in the last 20 years that is more insensitive than this one. None. He's introduced one of the most wicked, callous taxes on the Ghanaian people. When you ask him, he tells you that it's not in his manifesto, so they can do it. So really, we don't even know what to believe. We don't know what to trust. We can no longer take their words for it. All we can say is that we ask for it. Like they say in Akan, when you touch the food of the ghost, you can't take your hands out. Right now we are in it. They should press our necks, but they should remember that time is catching up with them.
Very well. Engineer.
Yes.
Fighting corruption devoid of political interference.
I think that the words of the president are soothing. But the point Miracles makes is also very valid. The president appoints these people. On what criteria does he appoint them? Are the people he has appointed independent thinkers and actors? Because if the people you appoint are not independent actors and thinkers, then that it's a foregone conclusion. So for me, the words are soothing, but whether it's going to be manifest is another thing. So let's take his word for what it is and hope that he's not going to be interfering in the process and that the process will be run properly. But beyond that, it's not just about prosecuting suspected issues of corruption at the moment, but it is also about what measures we are putting in place to prevent ongoing corruption.
Right.
The various state organizations are doing procurements. Are they doing the procurements according to law? Are we getting value for money? Because you go to some of these procurement and government says, we will procure, but we'll pay you when we have money. So government says we'll procure, but we'll pay you when we have money. What does that mean? Because when you don't stick to payment terms, then your suppliers, because you see, we do all these things and we say the suppliers will supply. Then they supply, you haven't paid them. Then interest accrues, all manner of things. So, and these are all ways by which then people are being paid to get their monies out of government. So for me, the issue should not just be about the fight against corruption. Is not just about prosecuting people who are suspected, but it's also about the measures we are actually putting in place to prevent corruption. And that begins with the entities, the various government entities. Procurements, how are they being done? Are we making sure that the people who are supplying are actually qualified and that they are giving value for money? For instance, you go and you see that somebody who is registered as a tomato supplier, and then at the end of the day, it comes to buying vehicles and the person has put in a bid, I'm going to supply vehicles. And then the person hasn't got a workshop to maintain those vehicles when they are procured. And government is buying from all these people. And you see that the companies are set up very quickly. Immediately a new government comes, you go in there, and a company that was registered a year or two ago is now in government, supplying government agencies. So for me, these are the things that we need to be looking at and saying, look, what are the qualifications? The company must have this background. It must have been in business for this long before a government agency begins to deal with it. Unless, again, we can show clearly that the item being supplied is one that is maybe specialized, and this is the only company that can supply, although it is new. So for me, we should look more at how to close that gap and prevent the corruption. Because, look, in the last 20 years, again, like I keep saying, corruption wins elections in this country. Accusations of corruption against another country wins elections easily. But how many people have we prosecuted in the last 20, 30 years out of corruption? Let's ask ourselves, including the political actor and people in government service. Then let us look at this. Just recently, I heard the Minister for Information, Sam George, saying that they are found communications. Say, oh, we have found partners for Airtel 80. The question I say is, where is the transparency in that process itself? So we are a government saying that we are interested in fighting corruption, but that process of we are found partners, where is the transparency in that process? We should be asking questions immediately. Where is that? Auditor General over the years has done a lot of audits and findings. What have we as government done about those things? How have we used the findings of the Auditor General to close gaps within public agencies and prevent leakages? So for me, we allow we have a basket that is leaking. We are not making any effort to mend it, but we keep making promises about how we are going to get the horses after they are bolted out of the pen. So for me, these are things that we need to look at very closely. Other than that, we are not doing ourselves any good service.
Thank you, Engineer. If I give you 30, Dennis is also going to ask for 30. But our time is up.
It's not politics. It's just to make the point. It's just to make the point.
Today we are 7 years.
Yes.
This for me.
Also,
I beg you.
Congratulations, at least you've done so well. But you see, under 30 seconds.
It's as if we say the country
Dennis will agree.
even on your own TV
Under 30
station,
seconds.
he wants to dictate the pace.
Under 30 seconds. You see, Nana, it is important to make the point that the president is accountable to the good people of this country.
Right.
And one of the fundamental pillars of democratic governance is access to information. And so if the president, based on the demands of the people, occasioned by his thank you tour, is asked questions about his commitment to the fight against corruption and accountability, it is only proper that he responds. I think that we have to contextualize it. Dennis, that was why he was responding. And on the issue of the petroleum hikes, it is a painful choice for government to take. But I can assure you that we'll do everything within our power, senior comrade, to judiciously use the resources this time around. Because we are in charge. And unlike them, we'll be very
Engineer Michael Considered. Dennis, I beg you, do this for us.
Position.
Seventh anniversary is for us. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the News Review segment on Breakfast Daily. Don't go anywhere. The show continues after this.